Welcome back. Now, while the kids are no doubt looking forward to next week's midterm break, many parents are already dreading the rows over their screen time.
Oh, yeah. Parenting expert Aoife Lee of parentsupport.ie joins us with advice on how to limit screen time and also how to keep them safe when they are online. Good to see you, Aoife.
Good morning. If it was only that easy.
I know, but you will have parents going, how do I broach this subject with them? Especially if your kids are in their teens.
Yes, yeah. And look, devices and screens, they're a huge part of our kids' day. They see it as a big resource in comparison to when we were growing up. So, it's schoolwork, it's with friends, it's how they kind of connect and, it's their entertainment. There's a lot of benefits, but there's also a lot of downsides as well. So depending on the ages and the types of devices at home can often determine how we manage and approach maybe certain scenarios and situations. So you kind of feel like it's a bit relentless. I know, having 3 kids at home, varying in ages, it can be full on. And I think parents and, families in general do feel it can get quite intense at times, depending on the dynamics.
Yeah. Is it an idea to kind of sit them down and kind of start to agree the rules and almost give them a bit of control as to what they do and also while keeping you happy as a parent as well?
Yeah, like it's essentially setting the boundaries, expectations. The kids are never going to come to us and say, right, what's the plan? They are never going to do that. So it is all about, sitting down and going, let's figure something out that's going to work for us all. And that is down to the specifics of, where they play, when they play. And I know, maybe for some viewers, they're thinking, oh God, that's really micromanaging it. It's just getting a general sense. Even what's used during the school week versus weekends. Now we're coming into midterm. It might be about, kind of loosening things up a little bit. But the more the kids feel like they are part of the conversation, like you said, Paul, the more they would be more willing to work with us and cooperate. They don't feel like we're always telling them how to do it and when to do it.
OK, the bulk of my kids now are gone beyond the school age. And some of them come back to me because we would have been sticklers about screen time and PlayStation time and Xbox time and stuff like this. And they've come back and said, especially the boys, that they really appreciated the boundaries.
Yeah.
They didn't want to admit it at the time.
Of course not.
But they really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think it's really as we get older, you do... At the time, there's that fear of missing out. So your guys are that bit older now, but certainly when kids want to fit in, they don't really want to be different to everyone else. They don't want to be the one not having the 18s game or not having the smartphone or the gaming device, whatever it is. So I think it's important that establishing ourselves, like, what do we want as a family? And then sometimes there is a little bit of tough love, but introducing some healthy control in other ways can be really helpful as well.
Is that no phones when we sit down for dinner?
But you know what? Like, it's a rule in our house, and we have to play that role model as well. And if we're saying to the kids, look, no phones or devices in the bedroom at night time, no phones at meal times, maybe when we're sitting down and have a conversation. With the older kids, you're thinking they do become a lot more independent. The phones in particular are just part of their pockets. So, be realistic, pick your battles and go, look, well, what can we agree on? And like that meal times.
I found part of their pockets is an extension of their arm.
Yes, it is.
And we're like that as adults sometimes. Sometimes my own partner has to say to me, right, dinner's served up, put the phone down. You briefly mentioned there about phones in the bedroom.
Yeah.
What are the negative connotations? Because I was reading on the notes and I was actually quite shocked to read.
Yeah. So phones, any kind of screens, so monitors for gaming devices, laptops, tablets. What happens is devices emit a blue artificial light that interferes with that natural production of melatonin, which is the hormone that makes us sleepy. So we're all guilty of, I'm not going to speak on behalf of everyone, but you're quick to put the phone on and flick through. If our kids, again, of all ages, are looking for devices, particularly for younger kids, if they're part of their bedtime routine, or the older kids going, I need to charge my phone or I need to use it as an alarm clock, it can interfere, and it can really interfere with them settling to sleep at night time.
Because you're not getting the melatonin you need to kind of make yourself get
tricks
that
the
bit
brain.
sleepier.
This artificial light tricks the brain into thinking, I'm wide awake. And look, for our younger kids, particularly when they become that bit more independent, for a lot of the time, they actually don't know how to manage that time. Some kids, you see 6-7 hours time that they're spending a day, and that's in a school day. So it's up to us to have some kind of an influence on that.
OK, for sleep purposes, the devices shouldn't be in the room. For
Ideally.
long-term health purposes, your mobile phone shouldn't be anywhere near your head when you're sleeping. It's completely dangerous and can lead to much sinister things.
The phones, but the games as well, because obviously the midterm is a kind of a time where I knew, you're playing with the PlayStation, you're going to get that game finished or whatever. So that's an important kind of conversation to have. How do you kind of indicate when the kids, they're gaming too much? Is it by time, or is there behavioural patterns that you can kind of see?
I have found over the years, I know even when my own kids have had too much. But in general, it's a big question that a lot of families would ask me is how much is too much? I think often, right, you have your boundaries, you trust your gut, but it can impact behaviour. So if your child or teenager comes off a gaming device and they're irritable and they're, easily triggered and there's a lot of kind of arguments, that is often a sign of too much. So like that, if you are introducing a gaming console for the first time, it's looking at, right, what are the boundaries around it? And again, agreeing with, like you say, it's coming into midterm, we are going to be a little bit looser, but maybe bookend the use of the gaming device, when they get up in the morning versus early evening, and that making sure they're getting out with their friends or they're doing something else other than being on a screen and not moving from gaming device to putting on the telly. So just again, be realistic. Be realistic.
Many times you see that. Normally, if they're in bad mood, it means they lost the game they were playing against their friends. When
I
they were
suppose it's the reaction, how they can handle it if they're not going too wild or too crazy or stuff like that.
Talk to us about adult YouTube, children's YouTube, because this is massively important.
It is huge. And YouTube, back in the day of my kids were younger and kind of getting to know all these YouTubers, it's just an industry now. But you've got kids YouTube and the the grown-up version or kids YouTube, it's fairly innocent and content. It's for younger viewers. But I think it's important to be mindful of, and I think for lots of families they admit that we use devices and like that with YouTube or Netflix, whatever, as a means to keep the kids occupied.
Babysit them.
And look, I put my hand up and say it happens myself, but if you're starting to introduce the app, the regular YouTube app, just really keep an eye on what they're viewing. And
that parental controls is a big thing.
Parental controls is a big thing. So with YouTube, make sure to turn off restrictive mode, turn off autoplay and use the safety mode to protect them from inappropriate content. And again, parental controls, really important. Webwise.ie is a great website to refer to when it comes to all the different parental controls, particularly for iPhones and gaming consoles.
I think all of them.
All of them, yeah.
They've all got a means for you to kind of, put a nanny on.
And it's crazy because now kids are watching people on YouTube, they're watching people play games and then going off and playing games. It's become...
how to finish levels on... Anyway,
we didn't have that back in the day. The things like Spotify and YouTube Kids, they're good though in ways they can teach kids, they can help kids to learn as well.
Yeah, and look, I appreciate that there are as kids get older, the kids' versions won't really tick the box. So again, being mindful with Spotify. What you want to avoid is explicit lyrics and all of that. But what you can do is you can turn off the explicit content on the Spotify website, on the actual, on the website itself, and that can protect. But they can still access, having a teenager at home, they can still access all the variety and catalogue of songs on Spotify.
You're just being careful as to what they're looking at.
That's it.
Aoife, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Lots to take in there now.
Thank you.
Right, coming up, Roger Moore's son Jeffrey tells us about growing up with James Bond.
And we're going all Gaelic with a French silk pie in the kitchen. Don't go anywhere.